Over the past month, I've been trying out Daniel Smith Extra Fine Watercolor paints using a 66 color dot card. In today's video, I'm going to show you the color journal that I created to test these paints. Then I'll go over a brief description of the 3 types of paints I had the opportunity to try, and I'll let you know which colors are going on my wish list. I'll be including a list of my top 12 picks, the colors I would personally choose if I were to create a whole new palette for myself using entirely Daniel Smith watercolors. In case you aren't familiar with dot cards, they're a great way to play around with a sampling of colors without the high upfront cost that comes from purchasing an entire set of paints. As you can see, I've made the most of this one. Okay, let's jump in and take a look at that journal. On page number 1, I've tested Amethyst Genuine and Iridescent Gold. I'll try to remember to show a close-up of the values on each page. For me, the range of values was one of the main factors I like to look at and take into consideration when choosing watercolor paints. How much can I do with each individual color? On page 2, we have Sodalite Genuine and Bronzite Genuine. Page 3, Black Tourmaline Genuine and Serpentine Genuine. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce some of these. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you know the correct pronunciation. But as far as the spelling, I did use the exact spelling on the dot card, even though I questioned it in a few cases. So I will own the pronunciation mishaps, but if there are misspellings, well, you'll have to take it up with Daniel Smith. Page number 4, Bloodstone Genuine and Quinacridone Deep Gold. And moving on to page number 5, Blue Apatite Genuine and Piemontite? I have no idea how to say that one. Both of these colors have a fabulous range of values. Look at that. If you've been watching my shorts, you may have already seen some of these pages, so I'll keep moving along at a steady pace. Page number 6, Burnt Tiger's Eye Genuine and Diopside Genuine. This color journal contains a combination of stamps, doodles, and paintings. On each page, you'll see this handy little palette stamp. I thought this was a fun way to display mini color swatches in a way that you can really get a good look at the color range. Page number 7, Iridescent Ruby and Fuchsite Genuine. If you're looking into testing out paint colors and you sometimes struggle to come up with a million different things to paint, I'd consider using rubber stamps. This has been such a fun, low-key project for me. Using stamps truly takes all the pressure off, which I appreciate. While I'm not a complete beginner, I'm new enough to watercolors that I'm not always entirely confident in my work, so using stamps as a stepping stool helped me enjoy the process of creating my first swatch book. Page 8 was Garnet Genuine and Raw Sienna Light, and on to number 9, Wisteria and Green Apatite Genuine. I love this green. As someone who paints a lot of landscapes, I could see myself using that color often. Number 10, Hematite Genuine and Cascade Green. I'd like to point out the granulation on this page, especially with the hematite. Take note of the unique textures. We'll get more into granulation later on in this video. Number 11, Quinacridone Coral and Duochrome Cabo Blue. In case you're wondering about the numbers and letters next to each paint color, let's go over what they mean. The top row is the identifying number specific to each paint. Along the bottom, we have the light fast rating, which is basically the pigment's ability to resist fading. Next is whether the color is staining or not, whether it's granulating, and the circle is for transparency. Number 12, Kyanite Genuine and Quinacridone Lilac. When we're done with this journal, I'll show you the key at the bottom of the dot card that will make this info easier to understand. Number 13, Quinacridone Gold and Lapis Lazuli Genuine. I was very impressed by the vibrancy and range of the gold. You don't always see that with yellows and golds. Number 14, Mayan Blue Genuine and Minnesota Pipestone Genuine. Both of these colors were nice to work with, and I think they look great together. I purchased a 3-pack of these spiral-bound notebooks. The watercolor paper is cold-pressed 140 pound. There are 30 sheets of paper, 5.5 by 8.5 inches in size. I'll include a link in the description along with the dot card and any other supplies I'm using. Number 15, red fuchsite genuine, and iridescent electric blue. One thing to be aware of, the paper is a bit more heavily textured than the Arches cold press that I usually use. I like textured paper with watercolors, so I don't mind, but I did want to mention it. Sickerlite genuine and duochrome hibiscus. And on to number 17, Suglite genuine and rose madder permanent. I know some people love texture and others just don't care for it. I'm a fan of those loose organic paintings with surprise bleeds and blends and some unexpected chaos. So I think textured paper works really well with that style. But I can see how someone with a more precise eye and maybe an appreciation for finer details might gravitate towards a smoother finish, maybe even a hot pressed. Number 18, Zoisite genuine and burnt sienna light, two of my favorites. On to number 19, quinacridone burnt scarlet and imperial purple. In case you haven't watched my channel's intro video, I'm going to link it below. Feel free to watch that afterwards and see if you'd like to subscribe and join me on this journey. I have a growing list of approximately 72,000 topics related to arts and crafts that I'd like to chat about, and I'd love to have you along to join the discussions. Number 20, quinacridone burnt orange and iridescent jade. I'm going to add timestamps in case you'd like to skip ahead. Although I guess I could have mentioned that on journal page 1 rather than page 20 when we're almost done. Sorry about that. Page 21, quinacridone purple and quinacridone rose. I will point out, this may not have been the best dot card for my specific taste. You've probably noticed by now there are a lot of pinks, purples, violets, roses, fuchsias, and so on. I would have personally preferred more greens and blues. But if you're someone who uses bright colors a lot and maybe paints a lot of florals, I can see how this selection might be really nice. Quinacridone magenta and iridescent sapphire. I noticed that all of the colors on this dot card are either fully transparent or partially transparent. I'm not sure that I've ever actually used a fully opaque watercolor. Let me know in the comments if you have, and if so, what were your thoughts? I'm not sure if it would feel too much like acrylics and not enough like watercolor. I don't know. Take a look at these tiny leaves here. I love the blend of these two colors. Isn't that nice? I've noticed the duochromes seem to blend really well. Number 25, quinacridone sienna and Payne's blue gray. I have a tube of Winsor & Newton's Payne's gray that I use a lot, and when I did a side-by-side comparison with this Daniel Smith Payne's gray, they were quite similar, at least in terms of color. Page number 26, quinacridone red and iridescent sunstone. If you take a look at these two flowers, you can see that the sunstone is another one that blends well. I found that as long as I started with a lighter color, then dropped in the darker afterwards, the results were great. I didn't do that with the mug, and things didn't go so well. Oh well. Number 27, quinacridone violet and duo saguaro green. This was a fun one in terms of sparkle. It reminds me of sunshine and long summer days. Page 28, lavender and red fuchsite genuine. For these last 3 pages, I had intended to feature interference blue, copper, and green, but they were just too light for me to swatch on their own, so I swapped those out last minute. I'm guessing the interference paints need to be used in combination with other colors, or maybe they're just intended for darker paper. Number 29, Aussie red gold and serpentine green. The red gold is a non-granulating color. It has a richness that I think could make it a really strong addition to a palette. This is a color I definitely have my eye on. Page number 30, hematite genuine and burnt sienna light. This is the final page of color testing. There were a handful of colors that were too light, but otherwise we made it all the way through the dot card. Lucky for me, the 30-page journal had an extra page, so I used it to display my favorite paint colors. We'll get into this more in a moment. Here's that key I mentioned earlier, showing the information on each paint color. Okay, now let's go over the 3 types of paint featured on this dot card. If you look on the left side here, you'll see that the top section says primatek colors. The pigments are made with a variety of minerals, and the colors tend to be more transparent and heavily granulating. With granulating colors, you can actually see the separation of pigments. What I'm showing you right now is the colors that I found to be most noticeably granulating. It's especially prevalent with textured paper like what I have here. Look at this landscape and the interesting mix of textures. These were by far my favorite to play with of the three categories. The concept of separating pigments and added texture was new to me, so I did a little more experimenting. The squares on the right are all granulating colors, applied with plenty of water. And on the left here, these are non-granulating paints. Do you see the difference between how the colors interact right where they meet? I also tried painting on smooth hot press paper to see how the granulation would move and settle. To my surprise, it looked pretty good. Look at the cool details on this second tree here. I used jadeite genuine and dropped in black tourmaline genuine while it was still wet. And there was a ton of movement on this wet on wet landscape. Okay, moving on. The next category is titled Quinacridones and More. Quinacridone is an organic compound, the fusion of quinoline and acridone. There were a number of colors I felt were too similar to each other and not entirely necessary. However, one thing I liked about this category was that these colors tend to be quite rich, even those marked as fully transparent, and I chose quite a few from this category for my top 12. The final category is luminescence. I didn't choose any from this category for my top picks. While they are beautiful colors, I don't think I would get much use out of them. If you're someone who paints a lot of butterflies, dragonflies, flowers, and birds, you might really enjoy these, but for me, it wouldn't be the best use of my money. I did try out the pearlescent shimmer though, mixed with Payne's Gray. I wanted to compare it to my existing metallic watercolors that I already own. If you've seen some of my other videos, then you'll know how much I love these. From this palette, I used the Crystal Silver. Let's take a look at the results when used over Payne's Gray. Pearlescent Shimmer is on the left and Crystal Silver on the right. There's definitely more sparkle on the right, but they both get the job done. If you don't use shimmer paints often, it might actually make more sense to invest in one versatile option for mixing. I actually received a comment on one of my shorts from a watercolor artist who does exactly that with the Daniel Smith Pearlescent White. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for, my top 12 picks. These are the colors that I would purchase if I were creating a whole new palette entirely comprised of Daniel Smith watercolor paints. I did actually change my mind about two of them, but I'll let you know when we get there. Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet, Garnet Genuine, Quinacridone Deep Gold, Raw Sienna Light, Zoisite Genuine, Green Apatite Genuine, Blue Apatite Genuine, Amethyst Genuine. This is the one that I would actually trade out with Imperial Purple. I love amethyst, but it has a little too much sparkle for most of my projects. Hematite Violet Genuine. This is the second one that I decided I would trade out. I realized after the fact that I would be lost without a Payne's Gray, so I would have to give up either Hematite Violet or maybe Garnet Genuine. And finally, Bloodstone Genuine and Lunar Black. Well, I hope this review has been helpful, and I already have my sights set on another dot card. The granulating colors are extremely intriguing to me, and I plan to test out some super granulating colors in April. Thanks so much for watching.